Anyway, Lana, I'm sure you caught some of the Peter Hegseth hearings today in the Senate, and it went just about as awful as you thought it would go. Now, it is funny, and we talk about how things are just so out of whack now.
Yeah.
If anybody that had Pete Hegseth's background tried to go in to get a job, and he had to answer every single question that was being asked of him today in the Senate hearings, what are the chances, do you think, that Pete Hegseth gets this job?
He's saying if it was reversed. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. And let's just say he's going in to be the manager of a convenience store.
I mean, come on. Yeah, no. Just no. No, he can't manage a nonprofit. Just no. He's
going for the highest military rank that you can be.
Right.
And he's going to get the job. There's no question about it in my mind. He's going to wind up getting the job. So we could drive ourselves crazy all we want to based on hearing what we're about to hear and do all this stuff. I will point out something that was pretty funny today. One thing that they on the right hate is the DEI hires, right? They don't like DEI hires. And Pete Hegseth is not a fan of DEI hires.
Yep.
I think, though, that the Republicans probably would have been better off had they made a DEI hire, because when they were presenting their case today, they had this sign behind them, Lana. DEI in our military. Do you want to take a look at the word military?
Military.
Yeah. It was misspelled. So they may have probably been better off making a DEI hire, because they would have been able. They literally went through blowing up this big sign. Yep. DEI in our military, it says.
Yeah.
And either nobody caught it, or they just thought nobody else is going to catch it, or they're like, screw it, just put it out there and we will embarrass ourselves, because we are used to embarrassing ourselves constantly and we don't care about embarrassment.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, Senator Duckworth said it all.
Yeah.
She was like, you're here to supposedly increase the standard of the military, but asking us to decrease our standard by letting you through. That's what they're all doing. Like, literally, that's what they're doing. DEI, the DEI firefighters in California, they don't know what they're doing. We got to make things at, a higher standard, when their president is not.
He's a DEI hire.
He is a DEI hire, according to what they say DEI is.
Correct.
Someone who's not qualified, right? So,
and he's a minority. In that respect, he, especially in 2016, he did not win the popular vote. Less people voted for him. And actually, in this last election, he did not win the majority of votes. So he is a minority in both elections, which, like Lana said, their definition is a DEI hire.
Yeah. Him, his sons, his daughter, just none of them. It's but in what country does this happen, that you have Pete Hegseth, right? His only qualification is he was in the army and he's white.
He's got tattoos. I don't know.
He knows some people. And this is the guy that all Republicans are like, yeah, that's our guy. Following Lloyd Austin, a 4-star general? This is what that guy? And he's literally there with a smirk on his face, like, yeah, I'm that guy.
Yep, he is the most unqualified. He might be one of the most unqualified people to ever
get. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who? they might as well
In
have
any Senate hearing ever. He might be the most unqualified ever.
Bird. Like, honestly, this is like a rock would be as like he has
or The Rock. Either way.
Just no. It's frightening. It's funny.
Yep.
And it's kind of unbelievable that somebody would stoop that low. Like, we know Trump doesn't care for America. He doesn't give a shit. But to actually go that low, right? Like, that's just really, but again, it makes sense because if you give someone a job that they're totally unqualified for, they're beholden to you. He would have never, he loves, that's all he could talk about was Donald Trump while saying, you know, we're not going to politicize this, but Donald Trump's name was after every sentence that Hegseth said today.
Yeah, and you know what? You could tell too that he was speaking as if he was in one of his safe spaces because that's what he's used to doing. He's used to going on podcasts and sitting on Fox News and going on all these other batshit crazy news channels, and that's his safe space. And he could say whatever he wants. He's allowed to say, he's allowed to say whatever he wants anyway. But he feels comfortable using the DEI stuff. He feels comfortable saying women should not be allowed in the military. But when Big Boy was asked to his face, he wouldn't say the same things that he was saying on his little podcast and in his little safe spaces. And that's, to me, doesn't make me feel comfortable that this guy's not man enough to own up to the stuff that he says in his safe spaces, but he's not man enough to say it in front of Congress.
None of them are. And that's the other frightening thing, right? They talk a good game, but they're all punks and pussies. Like, all of them. Like, there's not one with a backbone. They're all bending the knee to an elderly convict.
Yep. And con man.
They're all afraid of their jobs instead of, if they all just got together, they could defeat Trumpism and send him packing. It's like, what they don't understand is, like, we would not, of course we would want to win, but we wouldn't have a problem with a regular conservative, like just someone who's normal, who's not trying to release J6ers or break up the Constitution or call the military on American civilians. Like, what the fuck? Can you imagine that shit? the military fighting and firing on Americans? What the fuck is that?
Well, that's what they've done, Lana. What they've done now is that liberals, Democrats, whichever way they want to label anybody, has now become the biggest enemy in the country. We are a bigger enemy to them than Russia, than China, than really anybody else. Other than, we're probably on the same level with the immigrants who are trying to cross the border to Mexico, even though we pose as big of a threat as they do, because statistically they don't pose any threat. Of course they're going to bring up the one or two cases that they can, and unfortunately I call celebrate. But you're right too about MAGAs. This is a David versus Goliath thing that we've got going on when it comes to the overall ecosystem between the right and the left now. You know, I've heard for years that the left has dominated and controlled the media. The left does not control the media anymore. Absolutely not. The right absolutely controls the messaging through whatever media platform you want to say. Television, they have the number one cable network. Podcast, they have more people in the top 15 in the right-wing ecosystem than anybody else. So they dominate the ecosystem. So the David versus Goliath part is that I'm not a big Bible guy, but the only thing I know about that story is David was able to use a rock to knock out Goliath. We are going to use our intelligence. That's our rock to knock them out. Because as you said, what happens is when you face these people face to face, when you confront them face to face, now all of a sudden, the word Lana used and the word I use a lot, they are pussies. They will back down because they know they're not smart enough when they go outside their little safe space bubble. And when they are confronted to their face, they get fucked up. And that's what I hope happens. We need to start using our intelligence as our rock and continue to blow through these assholes. But let's play a couple of clips, Lana, about what happened today. This is Gary Peters. He's a senator. And this goes back to one of the first things he said. And there's 100 clips I could have pulled about today. And I only pulled a couple because, Lana and I want to get off on a decent time too. But this is Gary Peters, and he's bringing up the fact, like we said earlier, if this is somebody that's just hiring for a regular job, would he be able to get the job?
I think there's a board of directors in America that would hire you as a CEO with the kind of experience you have on your resume. You talk about standards. You talk about raising or lower. We have a problem of standards in the DoD, and we have to raise standards for the men and women who serve. Do you think that the way to raise the minimum standards of the people who serve us is to lower the standards for the Secretary of Defense? That we have someone who has never managed an organization more than 100 people is going to come in and manage this incredibly important organization and do it with the professionalism and has no experience that they can tell us that they have actually done that? I have real problems with that. This is not about other issues that are brought up. They're all very important. I'm just about trying to get things done, managing efficiently, and having the best people who have demonstrated that in a large organization. And I'm sorry, but I don't see that in your background. There are a lot of other things you can do very well. You're a capable person.
I don't know about that.
You have not convinced me that you'll be able to take on this tremendous responsibility with a complex organization and having little or no significant management experience.
Amen. He said basically what we said here is that this guy's got zero experience. It's kind of like, I don't know, if you're trying to get a job as a computer tech, but you have zero experience with computers other than that you've been on one.
Or you used to like sell them at Best Buy.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you were able to sell them at Best Buy. That is a perfect comparison. And now all of a sudden, you are going to be the computer engineer for IBM. Right. It makes zero sense. But you know what? This is what Americans voted for. This is what and you know what? Somebody like myself, somebody like Lana, and millions of other people knew this was coming. This is not a shock to any of us. And for the other people that voted for this, it's not that it's not a shock for them, but they're pleased with all this. They are just fine. You know why? Not because they feel Pete Hegseth is the best person for the job. They feel like Donald Trump is trolling libtards. So this is the world for them. This is the best thing that happens to their day every day. And that's why they can wake up every day and throw on a hat, a shirt, fucking boxers that say Donald Trump with his face right next to their fucking dicks. They are weird people. Right, Lana?
But it's true. Like, they don't even, like, there's just no critical thinking. It's just like, yeah, that's right. You tell them, Pete. It's like, no one cares about the rape. No one cares about, like, he cheated on his second wife and impregnated a third woman that he cheated on the second wife with. And got like
the family values people, by the way.
7 kids and the blahs of the blah. They don't care because they don't think about the real issue, right? They hear, and this is what the Republicans and Pete they did a good job of this, and Democrats got to do better. This woke thing, they continue to make the woke an issue and made it like it was this crazy thing that's just running rampant around the military. And woke is going to be different in the dumb MAGA's brain, right?
Correct.
Woke to them, they're thinking like the Pentagon, someone's running around with a skateboard in underwear, like on Bob's Burgers, with like the American flag on them and no shirt and a Speedo, right? Like that's what they think is going on, when it's like serious work is being done. This country is being protected, right? You don't know, and you're not thinking about it because we're actually being protected, right? Like you don't have to think about it because things are working the way they're supposed to be. But then when you have someone like this, it's like, I don't want women. So he gets in charge. What's going to happen? Women are not going to enlist. People of color are not going to. You need people who are like multilingual, who can speak different languages to go into different places. You just want what? White with an Anglo men? Like what? How is that going to work out? You're not going to have an army. Like y'all ain't thinking very far. Not very clearly at all. It's just
no. I mean, I don't think we've ever blamed the MAGA side for thinking at all, to be honest with you. But this is another clip, and I pulled this one of Kristen Gillibrand. She did a good job because this is the kind of thing, like I said, I was talking earlier about them being in their safe space in their bubble, and they say all this shit, but she caught him in an absolute lie and called him out for it, which I love. And this is, again, moving forward, this is what the Democrats are going to have to do. Get in front of these fuckers' faces and call them out for their lies.
Standards have been changed inside infantry training units, Ranger School, infantry battalions, to ensure that
give me one example. Please give me an example. I get you're making these generalized
meet
statements.
Quotas to have a certain number of female infantry officers or infantry enlisted, and that disparages those women.
Commanders do not have to meet quotas for the infantry. Commanders do not have to have a quota for women in the infantry. That does not exist. It does not exist. And your statements are creating the impression that these exist, because they do not. There are not.
Which he does constantly, and they do constantly on their safe space bubble.
Quotas. We want the most lethal force. But I'm telling you, having been here for 15 years, listening to testimony about men and women in combat and the type of operations that were successful in Afghanistan and in Iraq, women were essential for many of those units. When Ranger units went in to find where the terrorists hiding in Afghanistan or in Iraq, if they had a woman in the unit, they could go in, talk to the women in a village, say, where are the terrorists hiding? Where are the weapons hiding? And get crucial information to make sure that we can win that battle. So you cannot denigrate women in general, and your statements do that. We don't want women in the military, especially in combat. What a terrible statement. So please, do not deny that you've made those statements. You have. We take the responsibility of standards very seriously.
You know what's funny is that I guarantee you there are many women in the military who are way braver than Josh Hawley was on January 6th. The same guy who raised his fist at those people. But then when they were attacking the Capitol, that little bitch ran out, probably pushing over women and just looked like that's what it felt like,
on the Titanic, he would have been like,
yeah, yep. So I don't know if you ever watched Seinfeld. I remember an episode where there was a fire and George was pushing over women and children to get out in front of everybody. That's what that reminded me of when Josh Hawley was booking his ass out of the Capitol. The same guy raised his fist at the same people. These people are just.
He never apologized once. Like he never ever.
Who, Josh Hawley?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Just never said, you know what? I have changed. You are right. I was wrong. Like that's how you know he's saying what he has to say. He's going to get through it. He's going to go get his fat cigar. He's going to have a drink. And he ain't going to think about nobody, because that's what they're all going to do, because they're all going to move over. They may one more. Republicans may have a fight with RFK Jr. and the fucking vaccines or something, but they're all going through. Like, they're afraid. Like,
they're afraid. And Lonnie, you know what happens if he apologizes. If he apologizes, Donald Trump, right in the middle of it, probably calls one of his henchmen to tap him on the shoulder and go, you're out, get out. You just apologized in front of these people. You're not allowed to apologize. We don't do that.
This is so bad, Brian. Like, there was a time not too long ago, 4 years, where these guys could confirm, the nominees in a bipartisan way, like, because it wasn't he's a Republican, blah blah. That was like, what are his qualifications? What bothers me, right? Like, that's a thing. Now it's clearly partisan. They didn't ask Hegseth one question about he already knew the answers. Everything was just like about his family and his kids, and name your kids, and he forgot one of their names, and just like it's ridiculous. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And like,
well, Anna, you know what the thing is that the precedent has been set because the least qualified person in the history of this world is now the president of the United States. He has zero qualifications, not only just to run his own businesses, he has zero qualifications to run this, like literally zero. None. All right. This last clip was probably the one most talked about. This was Tim Kaine. He went on for 8 minutes. This is only a couple-minute clip, but he really laid into him about his very shady past.
That occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct? I believe so. And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct? Senator, I was falsely charged. Fully.
First of all, was he even asked yet about the
charge with having a baby?
Yeah, right. I would say, what are you talking about? He's already jumping ahead because he knows the question is coming.
Exactly. Right.
But it's like, dude, relax. Just answer the questions. Calm down.
Investigated and completely cleared. So you think you were completely cleared because you committed no crime? That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you are completely cleared? Senator, how is that a complete clear? Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth. And she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old. And she
her child, by the way.
You cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you? Those were false charges. Well, no, fully investigated.
Wait, I'm sorry, Lana. And I saw you roll your eyes, and you were right. The woman that had the baby that he cheated on with his wife is a baby of God. This religion thing.
God has to be thrown in because
that forgives it.
Yeah, MAGA love when you mention God and Christian and Jesus and shit like that. Like, that just does something for it's like a wet dream or something. It's just,
this is why I'm not religious, because this whole religious, if this is what religion is, if this is what I'm supposed to subscribe to, I'm out, because this is wacky shit.
He started with the whole hearing. He started saying he'd like to thank Jesus Christ as Savior, and I'm just like, what, motherfucker? What? You were accused of rape and you're an alcoholic. No shit, alcoholics who are recovering and doing whatever. It's a disease. I get it, but this motherfucker's didn't even go to recovery. He's like, I'm done, I'm cured, I'm good.
Yep, I'm good, and I'll never have a drink again. Trust me. All right, let's finish.
Investigated, and I was completely cleared, and I am so grateful for the marriage I have to this. No, you've admitted.
For now,
he admitted that you had sex at that hotel in October 2017. You said it was consensual, isn't that correct? Anything?
Yeah.
You've admitted that it was consensual, and you were still married, and you just had a child by another woman. Again, how do you explain your judgment? Completely false charges against me. You fully investigated, and I was completely clear.
That's not true, by the way.
That you had sex while
you signed
were
an
married
NDA.
to wife 2 after you just had fathered a child by wife 3. You've admitted that. Now, if it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it? It was a false claim then and a false claim now. If it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it? That was a false claim.
It's not the question.
So you're talking about a hypothetical. So you can't tell me whether someone who has committed a sexual assault is disqualified from being Secretary of Defense? Senator, I know in my instance, and I'm talking about my instance only, It was a false claim. But you acknowledge that you cheated on your wife and that you cheated on the woman by whom you had just fathered a child. You have admitted that. I will allow your words to speak for themselves. You're not retracting that today. That's good. I assume that in each of your weddings, you've pledged to be faithful to your wife. You've taken an oath to do that, haven't you?
In front of God.
Senator, as I've acknowledged to everyone in this committee, not a perfect person, not claiming to be. But no, I just asked a simple question. You've taken an oath like you would take an oath to be Secretary of Defense in all of your weddings to be faithful to your wife. Is that correct? I have failed in things in my life, and thankfully I'm redeemed by my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. In finalizing
of course you are. Okay, I'm done with that. But
Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know.
And I've been baptized by the blood of
Yep.
blood.
Well, it works, Lana. That's what it is. The people, when he goes back, because what he's going to do, obviously after this is over, he's going to be on 19 different safe spaces tonight. And they're all going to praise him about what a great job he did. They're going to talk about God. They're going to talk about family. They're going to talk about how awful the Democrats are and how, he's not a DEI hire. Although if he's not a DEI hire, I don't know who the fuck is. He's the most unqualified, like I said, might be the most unqualified person to ever speak in front of Congress to get any kind of nomination into a major position.
And just arrogant as hell. He could care less. He's like, what? I'm getting this job. Yeah, we're going to see Pete Hegseth get stopped for drunk driving.
100%.
1.5 years because he's going to let his guard down.
Yep.
He's going to get this job and he's going to drink all he wants.
And you know what else he's going to do when he's drunk? He's going to bang some other chick and get her pregnant.
Absolutely. It hasn't been resolved. This is what happens when these issues don't get resolved. He can't go cold turkey.
Nope.
Like, what is this? That's not how alcoholism works.
Look, and you know what? I don't want to disparage anybody that's going through who's an alcoholic and doing everything they can to recover and all that stuff, because I'm sure it's a very tough thing to go through. But the way he speaks and the arrogance and the not only just the arrogance, but the awful things that he says about women, the awful things that he says about everybody else that's just not in his little bubble, is something that's the reason why Lana is saying this is what he'll do, because this is who he is. And that's who he is. And he's eventually going to get drunk again. He's eventually probably going to sleep with another woman, whether he gets her pregnant or not. Who knows? It's very possible because this guy can't seem to keep it in his pants. What does he say? He's got 7 kids.
Yeah. That's because he'd be drunk.
Yeah.
Drunk when he's not even thinking about any of that.
You know what's funny about DEI? I saw this one time. I think we brought it up on the show. Do you know the initials of Donald Trump's kids? Donald, Eric, Ivanka. That is pretty fucking funny. All right.